I would love to ask everyone to sit down and come into a sacred silence. Wow. These are our first moments of 2012 together. Yoo-hoo! Happy New Year! All right. My name is Lee Taylor Young, and I'm your, I guess I could say I'm your mistress of ceremonies for this morning. I could be a master of ceremonies too. That's good too. So first of all, I'd like to ask, how many here are new to this? Welcome, welcome. Anyone in here? Yes? So where you are, I'm sure you know, because you'll have on your seats this beautiful brochure, and it will be sharing with you that this beautiful place is the Peace Awareness Labyrinth and Gardens. And there are beautiful gardens in the back, a labyrinth in the back that John Morton will be sharing with you later. And this beautiful place is the home to the movement of spiritual inner awareness and the Peace Theological Seminary and College of Philosophy. I still have to read it, especially this morning. I have some things to share with you. I know the spirit's coming in because my whole left side starts to wobble. So if that I stay standing is a good thing. John Roger is the founder of the movement of spiritual inner awareness, and he's the spiritual advisor, and John Morton is the spiritual director. So, online, if I didn't say it, welcome to you. So it's all over the world. If you're in different time zones, right now it's 9:30 in Los Angeles, and to tell you a little bit about the program today, we'll be going until around 11 a.m. Los Angeles time, and then John Morton will be taking us and introducing us and walking us through the labyrinth, a beautiful thing to be doing on the very first day of this year. And online out there, you have, well, everybody in their notes on their chair will have a journal, and you should. If you don't, for any reason, just raise your hand and someone will bring you a journal. And try not to walk in front of the camera. And in your journal, you will have a labyrinth, and those at home, home meaning online, I'm going to share this with you. For those of you online, you can go to, and it should be showing on the screen, but I'll speak it anyway, www.msia.org/PALG. And there should be a copy of the journal and a copy of the labyrinth. So I think we need to get to the most important thing, which is calling in the light for everything. John and I were talking this morning about this day and the magnificent opportunity that we have been given to actually learn and know and practice that we are creators, that we're powerful creators because we're lovers of God. And in that attunement, we become even more powerful in how we choose to direct our thoughts and our emotions and our actions as co-creators. And we were talking about, well, why, once again, should we not win in our fantasies? And as creators, take responsibility and just have a field day of abundance, joy, beauty, love, and everything that we can imagine, image in, that's good. And in that spirit of good and that spirit of God, if you'll close your eyes, together we'll call in the light. Father, Mother God, We place ourselves fully in your presence. We are at one with you. We claim and know ourselves as co-creators with you. What a joy and what an honor. We call ourselves forward into the light of the Holy Spirit, the whole Spirit. We ask that this light come through our soul bodies and into our life stream, centering into our spiritual hearts, calling forward the presence of the Christ consciousness, the mystical traveler, preceptor consciousness. We ask that any karma, any separation from you, that in any existence, past, present, future, above and below, that it can be taken all back into the nothingness from which it came. And once again, we claim our heritage, our light, that we're surrounded, protected, beloved, anointed by God in this light. We're so grateful, truly grateful. And we once again put forward our commitment to gratitude and thankfulness. We ask that this day be the first step towards the greater goodness that we wish for, desire, know can be ours. And all this for the highest good of all. In your name, Father, we say once again, thank you. Berish Beshan. I would like us all to take a moment of loving silence and send our love, our gratitude and light to John Roger. Before I introduce the main event, John Morton, I just wanted to share that there's really something very exciting that Prana, this place, is extending to the community and also to all of us, which is a music concert program. And they've already done one, and they're doing another February 11th. These events should be showing up for you online. It's from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. and it's in the name of love is the theme. I love that. And it's a series of music concerts that will be held here. And it says featuring a variety of musical styles and musicians, that this concert begins by exploring the upcoming Valentine's Day theme of romantic love, and then goes on to explore music that reflects the sacred, our love of God. I like that. So I want to introduce John Morton. Most of us in this room love and adore him. And that just says it all. But for those of you that are new, he is the spiritual director of the movement of inner spiritual awareness, movement of spiritual inner awareness. I swear I'm here. He's, to say the least, that he's a world traveler as well as a mystical traveler. And those of you who are new, I'll let you just sort of figure that out for yourselves. We've all had to do that. But let's start with love. That's a good start. He has taught many, many classes for Peace Theological Seminary. He was one of the first facilitators of Insight Transformational Seminars, which is on the MSIA website. So MSIA.org is a remarkable website, and we just went to the graduation of the Teen Insight the other night, and I wept. I just said, my God, the work for these young people who are opening their hearts to a new life in this world, to begin to find their own heart and their own loving. I had to just share that with you because it was just so remarkable. He sits on the board of Insight, almost all the John Roger organizations, but the most important thing is he's a man of love. He's a man who teaches love and peace, and we're so blessed, truly, to have him in our presence. John Morton. I guess I should.
Okay, she's here. And we're all so glad. Okay, so one of my resolutions is I'm going to get all of you to love and adore me. Getting that love and adoration going. And you're included, wherever you are. So I want to also emphasize this is a first that we're doing a webcast. I think that's a webinar or something like that. It's a form of that, even though we also have another thing we call a webcast. But when we're going online live, wherever people can tune into this. So this is new for us, and my understanding is you have access to some form of this journal, what's in here. So again, you can go to the website address that Lee gave you earlier and look this up. And I'm going to see if our technician, if that's a good name, can you give us an idea of how many people are with us online? 150, okay. So it's about matching numbers just based on what I'm guesstimating here. So welcome, so that you're enlarging our focus for what we're doing here today. And I really love that opportunity. So thank you for your part and your part here in the room and showing up, making that part of whatever you're resolving to do in this new year. So let's take a look at our focus, because it's a powerful focus that we're doing here today, and has to do with us choosing in as co-creators with God. And that's how I'm looking at us and focusing what we're doing here is that we have this innate, inborn, indwelling responsibility as a creator. And then there's an aspect of it that goes up to the creator. Now, maybe that's something for some of you or all of us that's still very mysterious at this point. So we don't necessarily have it all engaged consciously working, but nonetheless, that's one of the resolutions we can make, is to shift our authority, our ability, our responsibility as creators toward what we want to create. Did you understand that last part? That we have an opportunity, it's ongoing, it's live, regardless of what's gone on before. Those of you who were here last night, it was actually a little less than 12 hours ago. We did something that had to do with letting go of 2011 and really everything prior. So letting go of the past and doing preparation so that we're attuning, to clearing, balancing, preparing for what we're doing right now. So I'm emphasizing that, and I just did a little short form of the sacred tones, hue. See how direct we can be? And so even if you said, well, I wasn't there and I missed it, catch yourself up. You know, resolve that you're not behind. Be careful always in how you allow yourself to think, how you allow yourself to process what's going on. Most importantly, inside. That's where the power of the indwelling spirit is located, and something to consider, that the authority is with you. It's not something that you need to acquire. It's already with you. And claiming that for yourself is important. That you claim the indwelling spirit, the living truth. That you are a friend, a beloved of the truth, and those who work in this consciousness. And to understand that in the human condition, looks like we don't have any exceptions here. In the human condition, there are many, I'll call them things, that we're all dealing with that make it challenging, difficult, even the thing called painful. But is it really full? So maybe it's painless. Yeah, I think I prefer that, painless. I like that. So there's maybe a new vocabulary term to put into your way of thinking, that I would like less pain. So why call it painful if that's not what you want? Well, that's how they spell it. It's like, well, change how you look at it. That there's energy coming through your focus. Maybe somebody can help me with this, but I think it's in a telescope. Is there something like a diameter, or what when you bring something into focus? What?
Micrometer. It's called a
micrometer. Micrometer. Okay. Whatever it is, that there's a device that allows us to shift the focus. So, even in the age of autofocus, whoever Otto is, maybe German extraction or something like that, you know, that there is an opportunity to do that yourself still. So to engage your own focus, and what would you like? And may I suggest that you would like some clarity, so that you can see clearly. There's a French derivation of that word, clairvoyant, maybe you've heard of that. And to consider that you have clairvoyant ability in you. And do you choose that ability? Do you engage it, or do you say things, I don't want to look at this. I don't like what I'm seeing. Do you have that kind of an attitude? And is that really what you want to have? Regardless of where you've been up to now. There was a piece of information that I heard yesterday, which was that how we see visually, so how we see with our eyes, is also an indicator of brain activity. So if you want to be more clear in your brain activity, you can resolve to see more clearly. Even if initially there's a response, something on the order of, well, I don't like what I'm seeing, or I don't want to see this, but that it's in your favor to have the ability to look at it clearly, rather than to change the micrometer or whatever that device is so it goes fuzzy or distorted in some way. And to understand it, that we've done things in our psyche, you know, and that's a word that, well, I think was around with the Greeks, but then it kind of became something that referred to a mind, a particular mind or a mindset or mind formation. And that often then becomes something else that's referred to as a personality, an ego, and there's many ways that we can think about this. You see, that word, but let's consider that we would want to think about it in a way that has the ability to comprehend and understand, so that you're integrating intention. And that's a very powerful word that we're also working with here. And I consider it in the core of resolution, that there's intention there, because there's a part of that word that is solution. And then the part in the front of that is which tells us again, or it's repeated. So the solution is repeated. So maybe that's something like you get the answer again, like 1 and 1 is 2. So even though you'd say, well, I've already told you that answer, but if you're in a sobriety test and the officer is asking you that question, you might want to deliver the response correctly again now. Maybe somebody had that happen recently, or who knows. But there's a reason why we often have to deliver the solution again, to answer correctly now. And to make sure that's what we're doing, is there's an intention to be correct in what we're doing, and that's a solution. And a resolution can be, I want to answer correctly this year. I want to respond correctly this year. I'm going to jump forward a bit here in the journal, and I want you all to go to the page in this journal. It's 18, and it's a page that has resolution on it. And if you were here the last couple of years, this is new. So even though it says copyrighted, I think 2007, we actually changed the journal. So it's actually a different journal than it was in 2007. See, my mind has clarity on these kinds of things. You go, why do you go to details like that? Because sometimes if I'm paying attention to something that seems rather insignificant, and I can see that clearly, it's a kind of a clarity that translates into other, where I really need that clarity. So rather than be fuzzy on the details, sometimes it's important. But if you do that so that you're hung up, that's a technical term, in a detail, then that could be the kind of thing that it's like, well, I used to be told this as a kid, I don't know if this is for sure, but that if you put something like a dollar coin on a train track, that can change the nature of it, so that there could be something like a train wreck because it changes the dynamic of what's going on. Who knows? But that's a detail that we'd want to be conscious of if we're on the train, or we're driving the train, or conducting the train. Are the things that we want to happen and what would support it happening, are they in place? Are they engaged? I often refer to MSIA as the check it out group. That's who we are. So what does that mean? It means we're looking. And there's a call to attention, like a reveille, if you know that, which means it's in the military, and I grew up on military bases for a while, anyway. And actually, I heard reveille. You know, so I heard dun 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 dun. So you see, it's in here. And so I can still hear it because there was a marching field outside my window. And then room for a while, for a year or two, was on the second floor of our abode on the military base, and I could look out the window and watch them march. So there was another part of it where they had to show up and present themselves and answer by name. It's like, well, why? Because they want to know, is everybody present and accounted for? And it was done in a very orderly way. Why? Because everybody counts. And so to consider that in whatever you're resolving, what counts? And if you're putting things that don't count much into your order, so if you're putting 1 penny items, nickel items, dime items, and there's $100 bill items, I'm doing it in the local currency here, so you can translate into your currency, however that works. But put the higher value things into what you're checking to make sure they're in order. And if something's of a lesser value, if you had your understanding cap on, your comprehension cap, you'd understand that's not a very important thing that I'm making important because I'm placing my focus for the last 28 minutes and 38 seconds and counting on how disturbed I am by that thing. Anybody ever had a noise in your car that bothered you? No matter how many times you took it to the mechanic or whatever they told you, or whatever you did about it. And so that's just one example. I'm sure we could all provide many examples of things that would start occupying our consciousness. And there's this phrase called preoccupation or preoccupied. And it translates to what have you got into the focus? What have you got into the energy field where your creativity, your energy is being directed and manifested into that? Is that what you want to create this day, this year? So let's look at resolution. All right, so what I brought in was a definition, because sometimes just looking at the fact of what it is enlightening and reawakening. So it's, well, this version of the definition said it's from the 14th century. So prior to that, there was no resolution. Yeah, I'm glad we're all laughing because it's like, no. You're doing something, you're interpreting something that probably isn't there. You know, well, it says 14th century, it's in black and white. Oh, Latin resolution. See, if we just did something like that, like when was Latin an active language, you're going to have to go back prior to the 14th century. And it's a past participle of resolvere, excuse me in my pronunciation. So in some way, it's telling us that the Romans had some form of resolution. At least they had it in their language, wherever they got it from. And the process of resolving something such as a problem or dispute or a firm decision to do something. So in a way, it's something that comes from a problem or a dispute or a conflict. Is there anybody here that doesn't relate to that? That I don't know what you're talking about. Problem? What is that? Conflict? So let's just consider that everybody's got one. And sometimes it's spelled K-A-R-M-A. And then there's another translation that we've all heard from John Roger, or you're going to hear it right now. That's spelled S-T-U-P-I-D. And often that's the realization, I did it again. Or this is happening again. I can't believe what's been created here. So let's just consider there's an opportunity to solve whatever that is and to invoke that however you can, that's present right now, and that we're doing it in such a way as we're resolving the past. So whatever problem or conflict or difficulty has been in the past that in some way may be still present, that we're resolving to engage the solution, even if it's again. So in some ways maybe you'd say, well, I don't think it's a resolution, I think it's a solution for the first time, that this hasn't happened before. Okay, let's be open to that. So one of the definitions is determination, firmness of mind or purpose. So that's in your authority and responsibility to have determination. A solution, there it is. So for some reason that's second, an answer to a problem. So it solves the problem, it's accepted. Have you ever been in a situation where you gave a solution and it wasn't accepted? It's like, what do you mean? I'm thinking of the toothpick game, if you ever did that one in Insight. But there are at least 3 solutions that I remember that satisfied the criteria, but were not accepted in terms of would it work? And often that can be something on the order of frustrating. Like for me, this is a solution. You know, anybody who has children, I think you know there's a friction point typically with what you consider is the solution and what your child considers as the solution. And that there's a gap there that in my life has been frequent. Okay, so a formal expression of the consensus at a meeting arrived at after discussion and usually as a result of a vote. Of course, sometimes children don't have a vote. Why is that? Well, you know, it's interesting because I've heard that phrase, you know, even with people who are counseling myself or the mother of my child or something on that order. It's like, you don't understand, your children don't have a vote. And it's like, well, wait a minute, they have a vote. They have a breath, they have a vote. So they're in there. It's like, no, you need to consider what you want that you know is best. And so sometimes it's kind of a thing where there's not agreement, but you go ahead and invoke what's there as your authority, that it's in your hands and it often extends to other people or the conditions you're in. Let's see, there's another definition called separation into constituent parts. Say what? The process or act of separating something such as a chemical compound or a source of light into its constituent parts. So there's a different kind of resolution that you can actually put stuff in. I remember this vaguely from chemistry, but if you put something in solution, it dissolves. Oh, okay, so if you put salt that's in a solid form, let's call it granulated, and you put it into water, have you ever noticed it dissolves? It's like, yes. And so there's a capacity for the water to do that because of things like H and O, also referred to as hydrogen and oxygen. So that capacity to match up with sodium chloride. Wow, I'm impressed. I'm still in there. Okay. And just change that there's a dynamic. So things can go back into another form. And often it seems like it's breaking down. Like, why would we have a meeting? And why would we stop what we're doing? And those of you who are women, I'm really talking to you right now, because if you ever notice what happens if you're with a man who's driving and you don't quite know where you're going. And your resolution is, let's get directions, and their resolution is, I can drive, I can get, or something like that. So in some way, it often becomes, can we put this in solution? Solution, is that another word for water or something like that, that can break it down into its original elements? So take it out into a precipitated form called table salt, and bring it into a liquid form called salty water, or something like that. Saline, there it is. There's another definition called subsiding of symptoms, the disappearance or coming to an end of a medical symptom or condition. There's another solution. Maybe for some of you go, that's the solution I'm looking for. I want this medical health condition to subside and come to an end. Like resolve, like it's now ease, and it used to be dis-ease. So, oh, okay. So somehow the solution became what was a dis-ease could move into a form called ease. So my life, my body form is functioning in ease rather than some conflicting or disturbing energy, frequency, condition, however you look at that. Harmonic progression, the musical progression from a dissonant to a consonant chord or note. Anybody heard dissonance before? Something off key, and then that can be like, hey, that's jangling my nerves, stop that. And the more sensitivity you have to, what's it called here? Consonant chord. Well, in a spiritual standpoint, that would be a chord. Like an accord in which there's harmonic throughout all of the parts. So all the parts are vibrating in a harmonic frequency. And let's just consider that's the natural solution, that if we were taking our elements and putting them into solution, that they would naturally come into a harmonic so that the frequency is working together. One of the natural phenomena that demonstrates this is something like if you put different instruments that, let's call them percussions, like bells, and the different shape and formation of bells creates different sounds, so you can get ones that match up with chords. You've probably seen this on a variety show, when there was variety shows, and that type of thing, where you can, depending on the shape of the instrument, then it hits the chord. But you can get everything hitting the same note by hitting one instrument, and that vibrating, it brings the other form so that they're vibrating to it. Has anybody heard about this phenomenon? Okay. All right. Like, you put them in the room and you hit one and it vibrates, the other ones start vibrating. Like, how did they do that? Is there some, what's the guy in the bell tower, like the humpback, who was that? What was his job? Ring the bell. I know, ring the bell, but they got a name. There's a name for that job. Bell ringer, okay, all right. So that, let's say, if we just followed that story, that if the humpback was ringing the bell, thank you, that the other bells in Paris start vibrating, whatever that note is, that key, that it hits the frequency. So if you can do that with one part of yourself, let's say right now where you are in your body, find a part of yourself that's feeling good, that's vibrating health, and joy and peace. You might say, well, the only place is my little toe. Okay. It's like, let the little toe sing out. And that could it ring it out for, the back of your head? It's like, that ain't peace. That's a doggone headache. It's like, well, let the toe ring out something else. So by being aware of the healthy part, the joyful part, the peaceful part of you, that you can translate that vibration to the other parts. And what you might need to do is stop and put yourself in solution so that you disengage from whatever is the position that you're relating to. Like, it's difficult right now, or I'm lacking enthusiasm, or I'm irritated. Like, take yourself out of that awareness with that part of you and find the part that's vibrating in joy and peace and ring it. Get your hunchback out and ring that. Okay, so then we have a final note, a musical note or chord to which the harmony moves when progressing from dissonance to consonance. Okay, now that I also would call the accord. Now maybe that the dictionary doesn't quite go with me on that. That's okay. But that's what I would call it, the accord, and there may be other names. So that we're looking at, well, what would bring it into harmony? So it's all vibrating in harmony. What is that? Well, they call it the final note. Does that mean like that's my last breath, or my heart stops at that point? What was her final note? And it's something to think about. That how would you like it to be? How do you picture that? Do you picture yourself being in harmony when you leave this world? That's a deep question. I know. That's why I'm asking it. Like, can you set that intention with yourself? That it's an intention that's already resolved with God for you, and it needs your cooperation. So you have a vote. You are a child of God, and you have a vote on how it's going to be in the final note. And find that in your inner vision. That's working. The last part of the definition for resolution that we have is part of a narrative when conflict is resolved. The point in a literary work when the conflict is resolved. Maybe it's called The End. Thank you. That's very good time. We just had a rendition of, what was that, yesterday? By the Beatles? Now my troubles seem so far away. And it was the next part's, and I need a place to hide away or something like that. Okay. And in this story, how does it conclude? And maybe say, I think I'm going to go with a fairy tale, like they lived happily ever after. I go, where is that place? Do we have to go to grandmother's house, or how do we get there? Old Mother Hubbard, okay. All right, so what's going on is in a little while, not too long from now, you're going to do something about resolution. And that there's a place on the page at the bottom there where it says, what is your resolution? So now we're going to do some preparation to move toward that and set that into a place that you clearly relate to. You see how I'm speaking to you? And observe whether you are receptive, accepting, understanding, or you're off in some kind of, I can't stay with you, I'm having a hard time listening to you, I'm falling asleep here. It's like I was up late last night. I know you have your reasons, whatever they are, for not listening and affirming, so that you can acknowledge. And acknowledge is a form of taking the authority of who you are and directing it into confirmation. I'm here, I'm present. I heard you call, I heard reveille, I heard the bell ring, and I'm standing in my place, resonating in my harmonics, in my beauty, in my grace. So we're preparing for, how do we do that if that's not so present in this moment, in this year, this new year? Okay, so now we go back and we're going to start with some other words. I'm not going to read through everything because we printed it up so you can do that. But I'm going to read some of the parts so that we can engage the cylinders of this mechanism, the elements. So if it's sodium, chloride, hydrogen, oxygen, we're going to get it going. And it's like, well, it's organic. Okay, so we'll put some carbon in there. Yeah, I had a brief moment with organic chemistry, and that was in a university with a medical school, with a vet school, and a lot of well-intentioned science students, and I lasted 2 weeks. So I was like, it is not important enough for me in my life to get with this organic chemistry. But I do remember the part about carbohydrates. And so carbohydrates essentially are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. And you can write me later if I'm off. No, you are clueless, you don't know. As opposed to, or something in complement to inorganic chemistry, which is like all the other elements. But what it's telling us is that has a life form that we call a life form is considered to be carbon, hydrogen, oxygen entity of some kind. Now that we got that straightened out. Commitment. So part of it is, do you want to take your energy and commit to something? And sometimes if you've had experiences that you didn't like what happened when you made a commitment, where you put an emphasis of your energy, where you directed and focused your energy into a resolution or a solution, and later something happened that seemed like anything but solution, that you're gun shy at this point. It's a psychological term. And it means you're hesitant, you're doubtful towards your ability to resolve. So then you hold back. And withholding is one of the things that gets us into trouble. Because we're in a sense attempting to pass or avoid, elude. There are a number of terms I could use, but another way to look at it is not be responsible or be irresponsible toward the opportunity. And so there's some allowance for that. It's called later. It's called procrastination. Avoidance, it has a number of terms. It can also move into resistance, opposition, a fight. And you go, that, is that withholding? It's like, it starts by pulling back your energy. That it's a vote. And it often starts in some simple, subtle way. Like, I don't like this, or I don't understand this, or I'm having pictures of what's happened previously, and that's disturbing to look at, so I'm caught up in what I remember, and even if I don't remember much consciously, the emotional response is telling me, get the hell out of here, or something like that. And it's really important to take a look at that and make sure it's resolution. Make sure it's in your favor. Like, the way I'm responding is because there's a big bad wolf there who used to look like my grandmother, but that is a big bad wolf who wants to eat me. Well, in that case, maybe it's in your favor to run as fast as you can. But that's about protection. That's about taking care of yourself. That's about not hurting yourself. Then that's resolution. I'm doing what I can to support myself. And I'm aware and conscious of what supporting myself is. And allowing the big bad wolf to devour me is not part of that. So I'm not allowing that. I'm not participating in that. When you're clear, then you can put your full energy into creating what you do want. Another day. I want to live another day. So I'm running through the forest as fast as I can. I was watching actually a seminar recently from John Roger called God is Not Dead. I think it was done 1981 Christmas Eve, pretty close. And there was a part of that seminar where he talked about commitment does not allow for an alternative. And that, I woke up. You know, some part of me said, you better get this. So I got it, and I reminded myself about it this morning because it came to my mind as I was preparing to be here. So I remembered taking some notes when I last was listening, and I wanted to see, well, where did that come from? So I'm sharing that with you. And part of it is obviously, yeah, God is not dead. We have a living God and a living power, a divine authority that we're connected directly to. What are we doing to invoke and involve that? So part of what we can do is commit to what we want to create and consider that the commitment that God has with us, so that there is a commitment toward us, is full of no alternative. That's also been called absolute. Now, there you go. You say, isn't that a form of the word solution in there? It's like, okay, so what is that? Absolution. That doesn't sound so good. Because I think there's a religious connotation that we're not going to that. But maybe we are. So what does it mean? It's like, well, let's see if we can do the clearing that is already present from our spiritual nature and come into a resolution with that commitment toward us, that there's a commitment toward us. And I've heard John Roger say it this way, not one soul will be lost. You're never given anything you cannot handle. Like, what is that referring to? It's referring to spiritually. If you want to, like, well, you know, I couldn't handle when somebody sucker punched me and I went down. I wasn't expecting it, or it's like, it's not talking about that form of handling. It's talking about, can you survive? Can you take it? Can you turn it into something in which you grow, in which you move into a higher state? So there's another statement about that. You can use everything for upliftment. You can use everything for learning and growth. So can you resolve right now to do that and do it in the perfection that is of God and the absoluteness that is God. You might say, well, sometimes I don't quite make it. I slip. I forget. Can you resolve to shift that and remember what you're doing and make a commitment this day that has no alternative? It's like, well, no, I like an out. I hold my energy back because, there might be something where I'm wrong. You're not given anything from Spirit you can't handle. So what does that say? It says somehow it's resolved spiritually. Well, what if I die? Somehow it's resolved spiritually. So where do you place your faith? Where do you place your trust? Where do you place your commitment? Do you place it with Spirit, with God's commitment to you? See, I call that trust in God. That's what it is. Okay, is that related to faith in God? Perfectly. So let's call it God trusts you, puts trust in you, gives you what you can handle, and does not give you what you cannot handle. Well, that's perfect. That works. So what comes forward in the creation, in who I am, I can handle. And that's God's promise to me. That's God's no alternative to me. Right. I can trust that. Yeah, I can bank on that. Well, what kind of bank are you talking about? Let's see, the ones that need, what was the term? A bailout. Well, that sounds like they've been arrested. They need to bail? Yeah, I think they were arrested. And then let out shortly, or they didn't even get a mug shot. So they should have got a mug shot. For what they did, yeah, put a face on them, see if you can. Somebody made those decisions. Dedication. Dedication is like a pronouncement. It's the words you live by, the purpose. What are you saying? Well, I have a version that has dedication first. Anybody else have that version? Yeah. Okay, on page 4, we have dedication. Yeah. Okay. So if you want to do like that in your book, like we have some interesting left-sided journals and we have right-sided journals. But in any case, let's go to dedication. It's like a pronouncement. It's the words you live by, the purpose. When we make the spiritual dedication, we charge ourselves spiritually. What does that mean, charge? We hit the ignition button. We ignite it. It's like, you want to start this car up? There's something to that. What? You put the keys in. We are. It's called commitment, dedication, devotion, consecration, and celebration. Those of you who are initiates, if you're paying attention, well, let's put it this way. If you're attending to the information that's in the teachings about initiation, then you've heard these terms before. They're part of waking up spiritually. They're part of what sets it into place so that the engine is running and you're in gear and you're engaged toward fulfilling what you came into this world to do. So those of you who are new, that's our business. We call it soul transcendence. And what does it mean? It means that we look upon ourselves as a soul first, even if we forget that or we don't have a clear sense of what that means. If we're working on mystical traveler, not too far away is soul transcendence. And it doesn't matter, let's consider it is what it is. It has its own order, its own perfection. It doesn't need a witness. It doesn't need an explanation. It doesn't need a dictionary. It's its own source. So in that sourcing are these keys of how our soul nature practices and lives. So it lives in a dedication, it lives in a devotion. These are similar terms. Devotion involves a following, a paying attention to what you're devoted to versus all other things. So it shows up in a loyalty. It shows up that your body does what the devotion is. And when you have opportunities to come off of that and do something else, then the devotion corrects. Or it's not devotion. Was it called in a marriage? Infidelity. What does that mean? Well, we had fidelity. I mean, the wedding was okay. Well, there were some squabbles and fights over here, but particularly when it came to paying the bill and yeah. But hey, there were still, some happy times. So we had some fidelity there. All right. Well, how'd the infidelity show up? We forgot the vows, or we didn't even take them, or we just figured it was something like you just say those words because that's the ceremony. It's the ritual. It's what you're supposed to do if you're going to have a marriage. Well, those are vows. And if you don't uphold them, if you're not devoted and dedicated, and there's another word, consecrated. Well, let's look at that. It jumps. For whatever reason, it jumps. So it's on page 6 in my journal. The scale of the Christ is to love all. Now, I wasn't expecting those words, but they're there, and I'm going, that's interesting. The scale of the Christ is to love all. We surrender completely as an act of consecration and honoring. Once the consecration is made, it is done. It is between you and God. Consecration is devotion and dedication becoming more sacred. So sacred is of God. Just understand it's the order of God. And then as well, what's sacrilegious? It's like, where do we want to go with that? Do we really want to fully entertain what that is? And that could go on for a while. Maybe you say, you know what? I've had enough of that. And what is that? What is that? I'm saying the things that might be called blasphemy. What does that mean? It means in some way we're opposed or in conflict or disagreement with the sacred. Have you ever heard of the loyal forces of the opposition? The what? Okay. So maybe somebody's hearing this for the first time. So let's just consider there is an opposing force in God's creation. And what is that? I call it a dynamic. Well, what's that dynamic? It's for learning and growth. And what's it there for? Well, it shows you what it's not. Meanwhile, it's showing you what it is. And what it's not is not real, but it has an apparent reality. So you could say it's apparent, like it seems like, or looks like, or feels like what it's not. So in some way that's what we'll call opposition, like the opposite. It's been called the polarity. Is it the alpha and omega? That's how I see it. But let's say we'd have to get whoever the Greek is, who brought that forward as a form of identification of what is this reality and where does it come from? So there's a duality that's been identified. Maybe that's just because so far we haven't got past two. Like what? It's like, oh, what if there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're still not, we're even working out the duality that we understand that. It's like, wow, what is that? My mind's having a hard time. What are you saying? There's like a triplicity and a quadplicity, and it's like, yeah, just forget about that for now. Just work on the duality. But there's a way you could take it and you could bring it back to its oneness. So however many ways it's parsed out, it's splintered, it's separated apparently, it's still unified. So it's called a unified field. Yeah, I've heard of that. It's like, okay, fine. And more there's understanding of the unified field, even if it does get called a black hole. That's just a name, it's a term somebody made up. And it doesn't really care, if you will, that we're too dark to understand, it's full of light. It's like, was that an accusation? Not meant to be. Just kind of look at it as a way of looking. And I'm not selling it, but I'm saying it. You might say, well, you're kind of proclaiming. It's like, okay, fine. Well, what's the point? Well, the point isn't that we caught up in, is it black or white? Or black or light? That's not the point. The point is it sacred? And what is it to be sacred? And when we understand it's all love, that's the sacred. Anything less than love is the sacrilegious or the opposition. But can it really do that? No, God is love. And I want you just to kind of take that in resonance, like in some form of solution, like where did this begin? And it began in love, and it remains love forevermore, always and all ways. Now you've probably heard something like that by now, and just consider that that's the way it is, even when it appears as an apparency, as something less than love. That it's just something that's allowed in the moment of the apparency. If we have our wits about us, we don't energize that. We don't take our God-given power and direct it into that in a lesser form. That we understand we're pulling it back up, we're reintegrating into the love of who we are. And that's a consecration. I often call it final approach. What do you mean by that? Well, my metaphor is like a plane landing. So it's going in to its destination. And it's locked in to that direction. It's on purpose. It's in focus with how does that work. And there's a kind of a holding with it. If you've been on a plane that certainly takes off, but right now we're talking about the landing. How does it come back in? And there's a holding pattern. And how many of you have been in one where the plane pulls out of the holding pattern? That means that it doesn't land and it goes back up. I've been in one, more than one of those, and it gets your attention. At least it gets my attention. Like, we were on final approach. How come we pulled out? And you know, my memory is telling me every time somebody comes on and gives a little information. And it's like, hopefully it sounds reasonable. It would be kind of unreasonable when you say, well, the landing gears didn't quite engage, and so the wheels that we would use to land aren't available at this time. We'd like them to be available, so we're working on that. would you mind praying and get with God's intention that we want to have a safe landing here? And just consider that regardless of what happens in the outer form, there's a safe landing. And that's what our spirit would testify. That not one soul is lost. That the soul is not damaged, is not hurt, ever. So what is it doing? It's just coming into a realization of who it is in this form. And when we get a hold of that, it starts transforming how we relate to our existence. And it starts engaging the forces that are integration, that are the love of God, the love of God. Beloved is engaged. Some of you are getting that. Go ahead. Don't wait for me. I have a little job to do. I'll get there when I can. I've been to the mountaintop. There's a few still coming up on the mountain. So let's go to celebration. Page 5. As we do our part, move into spirit, partake in the spirit, and the conscious, and be conscious in the spirit, where there's a celebration going on, it's very much something like coming awake and realizing you're surrounded by applause and appreciation. Like you've been asleep, you're waking up now, and there's tremendous cheering, appreciation, love of your awakening. We'll call it celebration. It's also called liberation. And free at last. Thank God I am free at last. We shall overcome. See, understanding that is the soul's song. The soul knows this and will march to this. You know, some people say, is that marching on a political persuasion? No, unless that political persuasion is we're all good, we're all loved, then it goes with that political persuasion. All right, we're about to give you an opportunity to write in your journal, and then we're going to take some time to talk about it, to get it out with one another. But in preparation of that, I have someone here today that I consider one of the foremost experts in the world in journaling, writing things down, manifesting what comes from writing things down, realizing the benefits of getting it out from a mentalizing, thinking, into something that's more concrete, that you can objectify, you can specify what it is, articulate. So please welcome Lee Taylor Young.
My. That was God moving with us. Well, he mentioned this morning that he was going to call me forward to do this and to bring this. So but a few years ago on this day, he shared this, not fully with my cooperation, which was a journal that I began in 1999 that basically John Roger encouraged me to do. And I think he did it because he understood that I have just a love of writing, like pen in hand paper, and taking my thoughts and wants, desires, if you will, and putting them clearly on paper as a way of making sure that I'm conscious of what I'm doing when I'm thinking or just living. And John was using the word resolve, and in the late 90s I resolved in communication, in a conversation with JR, that I did want to have a partner in my life that was a God partner. And I don't know if you've ever done this where you didn't include God in your wants and desires. I don't know if you had the experience I had, which just didn't work out too well. And so JR encouraged me to do this journal, and he also first encouraged me to, said something very specific, live alone. And I said, it was so jarring. But I understood him, live alone, and he said, yes, because in having a partner, the first thing you want to do is resolve yourself with God. And I understood that. So really for 6 years, I lived alone with great determination and clarity and focus to attend more fully to resolving myself with God, just not the condition of live alone like a circumstance, but a really deep process with God. And at the same time, I would occasionally share this journaling with JR. And so some of it's kind of fun because not that bringing forward a partner is the ultimate thing in life, but if it's through God, it becomes ultimate. It becomes part of, in my experience, the journey. So I turned my journal into talking with God so that my wants and desires were more under the mantle of the highest good rather than more of a magnetic thing. So it became letters to God and letters to the partner, and so that God was included. This was in 2005. These are, okay. I said, dear beloved man of my heart and soul stream, I'm open to receive and getting ready. God is directing this. I'm asking God to prepare me in the dream state, if it is for the highest good, to meet you in 2006, and we connect in 2006. I'm asking for your preparation in the name of God to be together. I love you, beloved man, Lee. And so I found something. Actually, John found this. I had forgotten that I'd ever written it, and he found it in the box where this journal was, and I found him reading all of this. Oh my goodness. Oh, because, oh my goodness. I was very by myself when I wrote this. And, but in December of 2005, I wrote, the man for me comes forward equal to or better than John Morton. And amongst many things that I wrote in here, unbeknownst to me that it was John Morton, I wrote it was so important that he loved God, that he loved JR, that he loved John, and that he loved the Holy Spirit. But the point was, this is a very specific journal. I mean, I wrote everything specifically, and I had a great time, because what I discovered at the point I did this journaling, I no longer wanted anything, really, that was not in accordance with God. I just didn't want it. I'd had more than enough experiences with the karma. It was very fresh in my mind, not just in relationship, but in my life, of whether it was work or what it was. I just didn't want it unless, so it became a specification of the basic self on every level, but just always saying, God, I want the freedom to say what I want and desire in this world, but I want it to come from you. So as you're going to journal, I just wanted to share this with John's encouragement and just have a good time. Thank you. I love you.
Okay, so obviously now is the time to put some words down, and maybe you've already been doing that, so that's just fine and good. And give yourself room to be spontaneous, to be inspired, that you would allow your highest consciousness that's in you to come forward, and that you have a direct, intimate relationship with the divine. Even if that's relative to this world, unseen, unheard and very subtle in how it makes itself known in a form. Consider this, that it uses you directly. It uses you in your mind and whatever impresses upon you. So that could be an image, it could be some symbol, whatever that might be. It can be a vision, it can be a dream, it can be something that you recall, something you haven't allowed yourself to consider. There are many ways to do journaling, and I'm not going to attempt to go into all those ways, including free-form writing is a kind of a journaling that we often practice in MSIA as a kind of a release, that it's not meant to be recounted. But this is a form of journaling where you're allowing yourself to clearly articulate as much as you can what's in your intention field, and to let yourself be specific, let yourself be in some ways uncensored. So, it's like, well, what if someone comes along and reads this? If that's what you did. Let me defend myself for a moment. My recall is that we were at dinner and that we were with a friend of Lee's and having a very enjoyable time, and somehow we were relating about how we got together with the friend, and then Lee was telling some stories about what she'd written in her journal about me that was rather exact and amazing in how it came forward. So that if you didn't figure this out by now, that Lee and I are partners. We're beloveds together. And I had my part in it, and also in anticipation to the first resolution New Year's Day workshop that we did. It was right in close timing to that. So she said, but I don't even know where the journal is, because I do this so often. I have journals all over the place. Well, we walked into the door, and I walked over to a box that was sitting on a table that I don't even know if I'd ever opened the box. And I opened it up, and I found it. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know what was in the box, and so I innocently read through but I was struck by it, and so it was so on purpose with what we're doing right now in the journal writing that I gave another version. I gave my version of what Lee just shared with you. And I read some rather specific parts of the journal that were descriptive, very descriptive of our relationship and who I am in relation to Lee and who Lee is in relation to me. So it was powerful and insightful that writing things down is like speaking perhaps in an even more concrete way, so that as much as you want to be open and not censor, give yourself an opportunity later to clarify, to rewrite. And I know that's something that Lee often does. And she tears up older versions and moves it forward in a more clear, up-to-date version. So some of the notes don't survive, that because they're not quite on purpose and accurate to today. And they're not meant for posterity. They're not something to hold on to, like a beautiful moment, which is rich and delivers kind of a revelry or a beautiful experience in looking upon it. Those are the kinds of things that are worth retaining, that they give value now. The things that don't give value, let them go, release them. So we're going to give you a few minutes. You can move around on the various questions. What is your commitment? What is your celebration, your resolution? Feel free. And then we're going to form some small groups and give yourself an opportunity to share about what that means to you as a blessing. So go ahead and take some time for the journal writing, and we'll pick it up later. I'm sure some of you have more to say, write. So just give yourself permission to do some of that later. And you can do that every day as an ongoing process, an ongoing resolution in your life, to take some time to write to yourself about your life, especially about what you want to create. And give yourself that purpose, that you are focusing whatever this little device is in our inner consciousness that brings it into clarity and allows the energy to clearly, fully flow into what we want to create. I want to show off something. It's a Christmas gift from myself to Lee that I went to a place in London. London, among other things, is a place that celebrates writing and books and that kind of thing. And so I found this shop, walking one day, that creates journals. So I had them make up a journal. So it's got LTY, which is the way often Lee refers to herself. It's Lee Taylor Young. And then I had to do some of these things by hand, so I took advantage of it. So down here there's a little heart, and then there's a big capital J, and the J completes Jesus, J.R. John, and then the heart says, loving you. And that's something I know means a lot to her. On this side is a crown. And this journal works in reverse, so you can actually, it has a way you insert pages as a diary in the back, and it goes one direction, and then you can turn it over and it goes in the opposite direction as a journal. So then they have also pages where you could put in a calendar and that kind of thing. It's very creative. So that was part of it, is that it creates something special, and you may want to do something like that for yourself, that rather than Post-its or whatever other form of journaling you have, so that it also is part of your process, that you give it importance by how you write. And that's something I've also noticed with Lee, is that she has very nice writing instruments, pens and whatever that is. And the paper itself is often something that costs more, when she wants to give it that level of importance. We're going to do some sharing here, and we're going to create it in small groups. The setup is for groups of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 people. It's open as far as how you select yourselves amongst yourself. I'll assist you in that. You're each going to have a turn to share. And the focus is the blessing in your life this new year and beyond. So you can bless whatever it is you're thankful for. That would be one part of it. Whatever you're in appreciation for. And bring yourself into that focus. And let's go for the high value appreciation, the high value thankfulness. Not that you can't be thankful for things like mosquitoes and flies and that type of thing. But to bring it in that you have an amount of time that you can share this, and we're also letting you share back to each other, so that when it's your turn, you could take the whole time. It's going to be about 4 minutes, and you do all the sharing, or you can pause and let your partners, in whatever order takes place, whoever has something to say, but you are then to focus on the person with how you see their blessing, how you see what you're thankful about them, You might say, well, I don't even know this person. Well, give your high consciousness a chance to speak, that you can see beyond whatever it is you consciously might be aware of, and just go ahead and give yourself permission to say beautiful blessings for whoever is on focus for that in the moment. We're going to use a gong. Do you have a way of like letting us hear what that sounds like? There it is. And I think there's a gong that starts and stops for each turn. Is that correct? Okay. So we'll do it as something where there's a little pause in between each turn, and then there's another gong that starts you. So a gong starts your turn, it stops your turn, and then the next person in the group, a gong starts your turn, stops your turn. So we'll go around, and again, it's set up for 4. So go ahead and get into groups of 4. You can move your chairs around as necessary. If you're looking for a partner, raise your hand. I can see they need one person up here. Need one more person up here? All right. Can I get a microphone up here? Thanks. So if you're looking for a partner, and let's say if you have 3, that's okay, you just have more time. But let's get at least 3 or 4 people, and if you have more than 4, we'd rather somebody goes to another group. You're looking for a group? Okay, got that. Anybody else looking for a partner or a group? You need one more over there? And you need one more over there? Okay, so is that a 2 and a 2? Do I see a 2 and a 2? Are you 2 or 3? You're 3. Okay, so they need one person over there, if you want to do that. And then is there another group that could use another partner? Anybody else? So maybe some assistants could come in. Is that a person looking for a group right over there? Yes? Okay. All right. In a moment, you're going to hear the gong that starts. I figure somehow, naturally, perfectly, you'll figure out who goes first. And then remember, the gong will start your turn, stop your turn. Focus on what you are appreciating, what you're grateful for, and how you see your blessing going forward. What is the blessing this day, this year, and beyond? What do you see? You're looking for what back there? You want to ask a question? How about if I tell you how to do it, which I haven't quite done yet? And then if you still have the question, we'll take it. All right. So what you're focusing on is in your turn, you speak to the blessing that is present in appreciation and thankfulness, and also what you see coming forward. So you could say the blessing is the friendship that I have in my life, the support I have from others, and I see the blessing becoming that I have greater caring for myself, I have greater understanding. I'm seeing myself smiling more, laughing more, being with others who are also smiling more, laughing. Go ahead and call forward the blessing for yourself. And then you'll have also an opportunity to hear from your partners and how they see that blessing for you. Still have a question? Okay, looks like we took care of it. All right, here's the invocation before the gong. Lord God, beloved Christ and traveler, we welcome you into our midst, into my consciousness, so I'm doing that also for you. And I'm doing this in a way that I'm hearing this in the first person, that I am open to receive and be attuned with all the blessings that are present and have always been present. That I am in a consciousness with the altitude to understand and comprehend more than ever, to see the wisdom that all works to good, that whatever has been a moment of difficulty or pain or disturbance, however many those moments have been, I now appreciate and am experiencing thankfulness that everything has delivered a gift to my understanding, to my strength, to my resolution, that in this moment it is my choice to choose to love, to choose to heal, to choose to let go, forgive, and embrace. And in this choice is my liberation, my celebration, that I am joined with the presence of the beloved, that everything is transforming in this new day, this new year, that all is working in harmony, and I am a source of this harmony for all. I give thanks for placing this vision into my clear sight, into the integration through my consciousness, that I bring it in to my mind, to my emotions and ways of relating, into what I see and into what I experience in the physical, in this world, preparing me perfectly for what I am to become as the beloved of God, in the full consciousness of who I am as a soul, in celebration of all who are in this consciousness of the soul. Beirish Beshan. All right, so that completes the time that we have for now for the sharing. And of course, those of you on the internet watching in, you've had that opportunity as well. Let's just take a moment to integrate the blessing. And what do I mean by that? When we say Berush Beishan, which we often do, it's a claiming, a proclamation, and the depth with which you do it is also how it is integrated. So if you do it in a very casual way, then it kind of sets it up as something that's on the surface. Or if you are intending that it's said to the depth of your soul, then that resonates with the power in which you are invoking that the blessings already are. That means that you're making claim to it. It's also a way of releasing what the blessings are not. So in a way, at the same time we're saying the blessings are, we're saying we're letting go, we're releasing what is not the blessing. And that's maybe the greater part of what we would be aware of as the blessing is what's being released, what's letting go, what's being forgiven, what's being resolved. So let's give a moment for that process of resolving with the blessings to take place. I know some of you, of course, are already doing it. Continue. And I'm going to speak toward the resolution with the blessings. Dear Lord, we give thanks for the opportunity to come before you as those who fully embrace all that you are. So we know there is a beginning that is your acceptance, that you have issued your creation in acceptance of all. So if you allow it, it is part of the perfection. So we have put aside our differences, whatever conflicts we have been holding. And we now ask that this resolution with your blessing deepen to the very core of our being, so that whatever is our choice, we choose back freely, openly, and completely. We choose to celebrate your creation, to rejoice in another day, another year before us, and rejoice in this lifetime. That we do this for ourselves, as is the responsibility to love and take care of ourselves. And we also are resolved to do this for others. And yea, for all of your creation. That we stand before you in the Spirit, radiating this love that you are, this blessing that goes to all of your creation. So we are integrated with your loving and the truth of your loving, that we proclaim clearly and fully with all of our strength that we do love you, as has been the commandment that has come forward through the ages. And we discover you have always loved, that we were never forsaken. So all of that is dissolving from our eyes, from our inner holding. So the solution is what we are immersed in this moment. This peace is full, this love is full, this joy is full this day. We claim ourselves as those who go forward in your love, in your light, in celebration. And when we come upon first ourselves, once again, in any way, forgetting that we are divine, and looking upon the distortion, or in any way seeing in darkness and negativity, we ask that you may have mercy on our soul as you always have, such that we are awake in your love, full in our awareness and consciousness of your love, that this is our truth, that it goes forth to all from us, that in our vision we can behold a world of celebration, that we can let ourselves see that we are children of God, and your kingdom rejoicing, knowing your will is done always and forevermore. Be'er Shpeshan. Thank you for your appearance, for your showing up, for your resolution to have a great day in the morning. And I know some of you it's already later, And some of you, it's early and it's already January 2nd. And thank you for joining us. We are going to, as a group, be going outside, and I'm pointing into the directions for those of you who are new here at Peace, Awareness, Labyrinth, and Gardens, that we have a labyrinth outside, and we also have gardens at the far end of the property that are surprising and wonderful. So that's part of it. I'm going to give some explanation here in the room because I think it's a little easier to get that information out to you. And then we'll be gathering up those of us who want to participate in the labyrinth walk. We'll be circling up around outside of the labyrinth. I'm sure you'll figure out where that is, what that is. We're also going to be serving lunch very shortly. So the way it will work is I'm sure many of you will be doing the walk while the brunch is already served. But I think that works out real well because it's not set up so everybody can start eating all at once. It's set up that you, as a buffet style serving, so it'll be a few at a time that will be able to serve yourself at the buffet table. And then whatever we do at the labyrinth, that'll just be set up as an invocation. We'll do that together just prior to brunch being served. There's going to be, I think I asked for 5 gongs outside, so that'll be our brunch bell to let us know the food is ready. For those of you who are either in the labyrinth or outside somewhere, you'll be able to hear that. Okay, the labyrinth outside is in travertine marble, so this is what it looks like. It's about 40 feet in diameter. So just imagine that. There is a huge symbol at the opening, and the opening of a labyrinth is a pathway. It's roughly about a third of a mile, I'm told, so that's 500 or so plus yards. If you can give yourself that idea, what would that be like to? So it'll take you a little while. So with my finger, I'm kind of demonstrating the path. There's no dead ends. It's like you stay, see, I didn't manage to do that very well, but the idea is you stay on the path and people will be going in, and I'm going to kind of jump. So it goes through every white line. You walk every part of it. There's no part of it you do not walk. That's the white line. Eventually coming in to the center, and you can take a moment or you can just turn around, and then the idea is to walk out. We consider it a sacred space, but it's not a superstitious space. So my attitude toward the labyrinth is nothing bad will happen to anyone. That's my attitude towards it. So whatever you do, whatever anybody else does, let's look upon it as blessed. So these are guidelines that we have. So the idea is to stay as best you can on the path. The likelihood is there will be people eventually walking back out. It's, I don't know the distance of the white part that you're walking on, but it's maybe 20 inches, 24 inches. It's not really big enough for 2 people to pass conveniently. So that means somebody has to sort of step aside off the path, if you will. And that's part of the process, that's how it works. And how you process how that is part of how you walk the labyrinth. I'm going to give you some of our guidelines, and we have those available, I'm sure, here if you'd like to look at them more specifically. It's an archetypal design. The original that we know about is in Chartres, France. It's the cathedral that is fairly well known in the world. It's considered one of the greatest cathedrals. Probably built around 1220 or something like that. So it is our replication of that. There's a lot of lore and customs. I'm not going to go into that about labyrinths, but the idea is it's symbolic, it's representational. I like what we've been working with today as an intention to dissolve what is unclear, what's not working, what is blocked. So when you're walking in, you may have an intention, the idea of I'm dissolving, I'm unraveling, I'm releasing, I'm letting go. And then you come into the center, and that can be integration, and I'm walking out with that integration. I'm walking out full of the blessing. What do I do while I'm walking? Do I chant the name of God? That you could. Generally, people walk it in silence, but you could be thinking of your grocery list, or, you know, where your mind goes is part of the process too. So the idea is it's a sacred walk, a walk that does something to help clear and release what you don't need, what is not serving, and to bring forward the blessing. So what would resolve your consciousness toward greater good, towards the highest good, healing, clarification, strength, wisdom, whatever would be the blessings that you're asking for this walk to do what takes place in the consciousness, mentally, emotionally, physically. Do you need to believe in it? It's not necessary. Is it a good idea? Yes, toward the good. So believe in what the good is. You don't believe in that there's something like you can't do it or you're not worthy. Release all that. Some of the suggestions are to relax, to have a deep inner experience of your soul and God as a guiding force, to resolve issues. Just consider they're resolved. You could say they're already resolved. I can just walk into the center. Okay. You see, I don't have a rule that you can't do that. This is a suggestion. This is what we're asking and suggesting that you do. Or I don't have to walk the labyrinth. That's true. I've already done whatever the labyrinth walk could do for me. That's fine. I leave that all up to you to ask questions about your life. That's up to you. We've asked you some questions today, going towards what is the celebration, what is the resolution. Gain greater awareness of spirit to release a concern, a walking prayer, focus on breathing, chant the names of God. Energies in the labyrinth are powerful. It's like something you could burn yourself or something like that. No. It's powerful toward the good. So just look at it that way. It's not set up to bother you, disturb you, irritate you, anything like that. So we just clear all that kind of thing out. We're just going to use it for greater good. Walk in with an open heart, an open mind. Ask for the highest good. That's how we do all things. The highest good. That's giving up to God's will, releasing whatever is in our consciousness that would in any way interfere with what is the highest good. Looks like I've talked most of what's on this last part. Yeah, you may need to pass people just because maybe somebody stops or pauses or they're not quite walking at your pace. That's okay. So, in other words, you're going to be passing people on the way out, who, if you're going in or if you're going out, they're coming in. Is it okay to pass, like, get in the fast lane or something like that? I leave that to you. But as much as possible, we want it to be something that's harmonious, in good flow. So that's the intention that we hold. But people can do that at different rates and different pace. Any questions before we go out to the labyrinth? Yeah, up here?
Can we leave anything in the room?
Do we leave anything in the room? As far as I'm concerned, you can leave anything in the room, but I'm just checking if anybody else has something else. I don't know if there's going to be clearing out the room with chairs. Anybody got anything on that?
We'll be clearing the chairs within an hour after brunch. So.
Okay. So for about an hour, more or less as is, and then there's going to be a process with some of our volunteers to clear out the room. Any other questions before we move out to the labyrinth? Okay, so I think for our, we do have one.
Is there something later here?
Something later here? No.
No, we're done.
We're done, other than the brunch will be served shortly. And I would like to do something for our folks on the internet, and it's going to be on the count of 3. We're going to say together, Happy New Blessed You. 1, 2, 3. Happy New Blessed You. Okay. So I'm going to do the invocation at the labyrinth very shortly. I know some of you may not be there. That's okay. We'll get the invocation blessing whether you're there personally or not.
So we are now walking to go do the outdoor labyrinth for those people that are online. If you would like to do the paper labyrinth, the finger labyrinth, just go ahead online to the link that's up on the Ustream site right now, www.msia.org/PALG, and you can actually print out the hand labyrinth. So you're welcome to do that at home. We will leave the audio on during the entire time while John does the invocation. So just sit back and enjoy it, and you can go ahead and do the labyrinth as well. So we will be up live until the very, very end, probably when they start brunch. God bless you.
Let's see if this, it is working. Anybody here from somewhere that's much more cold than this is today? Anybody in that category? Let's say Point Barrow, Alaska. Have we got anybody from Point Barrow? That would do it. How about, is it? No. Oslo, Norway. How's that? Anybody from Oslo? Anyway, this is amazing. Here we are in winter in Southern California. It's great. Great day. So I demonstrated that you can just walk straight in, and it looks like so far I'm okay. You know, so I didn't follow the exact precise path. I did that on purpose, just to be in center, and I even invited my beloved to come in here at the same time, so if we were going to be struck by something, it would happen to both of us or something like that. All right, here we are. It's very simple as I look at it, that it's a relaxed exercise. Leave yourself open, so if something powerful happens for you that you weren't expecting, that you have room for that. That God can bless you, and you can bless yourself. So if emotions come up, that's okay. I think we're going to have some assistance around. Am I correct? Yes, I'm getting some nodding heads, so that if you, for some reason, needed assistance, like you had a hard time standing up, walking, anything like that, we would help you with whatever you need that would serve you. So go through it at your own pace again, in your own process, with an invocation. That there is an invocation here right where we are. There's a plaque that we put here in the form of a star, and it says the words, "For our beloved John Roger." And that was obviously a dedication of the labyrinth to our beloved John Roger and his blessing. And also the way I've experienced that again and again is that if I can manage to bless him, it seems that some blessing of greater manifestation comes to me. And that's just how I look at what happens whenever we bless any beloved in our life, that it returns to us in kind with Spirit's blessing that's multiplied. And right now, dear God, we invoke this blessing of the beloved, of our beloved John Roger, our beloved Christ through Jesus, and whoever else is assisting spiritually right now, especially in each one who is about to walk this labyrinth, that what needs to be released, resolved, and completed is done in the highest good of all concerned. And what needs to be initiated, ignited, begun, is also fully received. That we know you can do this in perfect understanding, keeping in mind whatever karma is walking this path. That we don't need to understand how it's done. That we come forth from this walk full of your blessings, radiating peace, joy, love, harmony, and all that is good to everyone and everything. And knowing that it begins inside at the source that is our soul, and the source that is you, our beloved Lord God. Berush Beshan. Okay, I think someone is about to begin. So come on in and fall where the hue symbol is, and just come on in and keep yourself going on a clear white path, is how I'll say it to you. And I think if I'm got this right, we have some bells that are, or a gong or something's about to ring. Brunch is served.